This begins our second segment for week 1, questions 19 through 23 on your assignment sheet. Now, these lectures don't have to be viewed in any particular order. They stand alone on their own. So don't worry if you're watching the second one before you watch the first one. It's okay. The number 19, I'm asking you to explain and diagram the pH scale. Asking you to place hair and skin and explain strong, weak, alkalis, etc. Now, what I'm going to introduce to you first is strictly state board parrot answers. What are you having for dinner? Food. So when the state board asks you questions, they really only want to know if you know what side of the street your products are on. Are they acidic or are they alkaline? And they expect you to know that simply because if I get a burn, I need to know the proper first aid. Sorry about that. I'm trying to keep it so you can see me on the board at the same time. Maybe not too good an idea, but we'll try it anyway. Okay, so when you factor your pH scale, it's going to be from 0 to 14 with 7 in the middle. So you'll notice I made the 7 quite large because that's the neutral point. Neutral is neither an acid nor is it an alkali. And water sits at a pH of approximately 7. Give or take maybe some elements in it that might make it a little more alkaline or a little bit less, but it's never going to be outside of this range. The FDA says that a product can advertise being pH balanced if it stays between 6.5 and 7.5. So now not only do I have to watch out for manufacturers who say our products are organic, now we have to watch out for ones that tell you our products are pH balanced, because all they're telling you is that their product line stays between 6.5 and 7.5. To the layperson, that sounds like a really good idea. But once you understand how to factor the pH scale and what skin types respond, you're going to find out that one formula doesn't work for everybody. This is not a one-size-fits-all. So to determine the manufacturer, he puts the 1 under the 7. And because the pH scale is a logarithmic scale, it goes up in multiples of 10, just like the earthquake, the Richter scale. But it goes up in strength 10 times magnitude. So a pH of 8 is 10 times more alkaline than a pH of 7. Okay? A pH of 9 is 100 times more alkaline than 7. A pH of 10 is 1,000 times more alkaline than 7, and a pH of 11 is 10,000. The FDA says nothing can go to the skin at the ratio above 10,000. To do so creates chemical burns. They also state that no manufacturer can sell a product between 12 and 14 or 0 and 1 because these are classified as strong acids, strong alkalis, and the word caustic is used because caustic means to burn. So I can have an acid burn and I can have an alkaline burn. And if I get either one, I have to know that if I have an acid burn, it's neutralized by rinsing and applying an acid. If I get an acid, oh boy, did I just say that backwards? If I get an acid burn, it's neutralized with an alkali. If I have an alkaline burn, it's neutralized by an acid, and they expect you to know that, simply because the chemicals we're working with are depicted that way. They have a pH. It's your job to know what it is and if it's safe to use. So when the manufacturer is determining a pH, they're putting the 1 under the 7, okay? And 6 is 10 times more acidic than 7. 5, which is hair, skin, and nails, which is normal, is 100 times more acidic than 7, which is just water, okay? 3 is 10,000. Now remember, nothing can go to my skin that exceeds a 10,000 ratio, okay? So now I have to understand, what does this really mean? If the manufacturer is telling me the pH is 8 of a product. What does that mean to me, the technician, and on whom is it safe to use? So I have to know how to use the information the manufacturer gives me and translate that to the effect it's going to have on my client's skin. So we start with oily skin, okay? An oily skinned client has a pH of approximately 6, okay? So a pH of 7 is 10 times more alkaline. A pH of 8 is only 100 times more alkaline than this client. A pH of 9 is 1,000, but a pH of 10 is 10,000. So I can take nothing to the skin that exceeds a pH of 10 if they're oily. Now, on the other side of the street, I have my dry-skinned client who has a pH of 4. So this same product now, 5 is 10 times more alkaline than my dry skin. And it's alkaline. Even though it's on the acid side of the street, it still says it's more alkaline because I'm going up. If you think about your car, when your car is in neutral and you step on the gas, you don't go anywhere. When I put it in drive and I'm headed toward my destination, toward the 14, when I'm going up, okay, I'm going toward the alkaline side of the street. When I put my car in reverse and I'm going down and the numbers are getting lower, then that's reverse. So I have to be able to factor in both directions. So a pH for dry skin, 5 is 10 times more alkaline, 6 is 100 times more alkaline, 7 is 1,000, but 8 is my 10,000. So the product that is okay for the oily skin is going to burn the dry skinned client. You think you should know that? Absolutely. Now in reverse, in chemical exfoliation, okay, or anytime I'm applying an acid, I need to know that if my client has dry skin, a pH of 3 is 10 times more acidic than 4, while a pH of 2 is 100 and a pH of 1 is 1,000. Okay, the FDA says we can't sell anything between 0, 1, and 2 unless it says for professional use only, because if you don't know this, you can really cause client harm. Okay, my oily skinned client now, I put the 1 under the 6, and 5 is 10 times more acidic, 4 is 100, 3 is 1,000, but my 2 is 10,000 times more acidic. So my client, oily skinned client, is risk for acidic burns, while my dry skinned client is at risk for alkaline burns. And you need to be able to understand this and know exactly, how do I know what to choose on who to get the result I want? And then I have to know how to dilute my product. Okay, so when we're looking at the formulations and the stuff for water, we have water that's deionized, which means the ions have been removed. Distilled water means the minerals have been removed. That's basically for my steamer, okay? And purified water has had toxins removed, like from the purifying plant, which would be, you know, your bleaches and stuff that kill the bacteria. Mineralized water has had minerals added. Polarized water is either positively or negatively charged, depending on what the manufacturer wanted. Normally, the only company that uses polarized water is Epicurean, and they have some products that use polarized water because they're the ones that developed product knowledge based on the ability of the skin to absorb product based on the positive and the negative repulsion attraction concept. This was their concept. Okay. This is really important. Okay, hopefully if you need to replay it, if you need questions, if you have questions, please feel free to call me, email me, and this is a really good discussion thread because this is just something that's really super important that you need to get a handle on, and especially at the beginning of the classes, so that when I'm talking about pH and the cause and effect it has, you'll have an idea of what I'm talking about. But even more important is once you get on the street, if the manufacturer says it has a pH of 7, you know what that means. if they say it has a pH of 10, you'll know what that means. Dermalogica, when they first came out, their disincrustation lotion, which is their scaling fluid to prepare the skin for extractions, because alkalis, their physical action is to melt, liquefy, and dissolve. The state board answer is soften and swell. Okay, but what really happens is it begins to melt, liquefy, and dissolve that hardened mass of sebum in the pore, which is very important that I get it right. Their pH was 10 when it first came out. Okay, and if I had oily skin, I was fine. But if I had dry skin and I used that, I was going to get chemical burns, because down here I'm at 10,000 ratio. So when they when they sold it and they modified their product, their scaling fluid now has a pH of 8, which is great for the oily skin client, but now there's very little benefit to my oily skinned client. And really, who needs extractions more? The oily skinned client, okay? And that's just a given. They just have to, that's basically who we extract. So once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Now, on number 22, when we're talking about how to separate and identify chemical words, it doesn't do you a whole lot of good to read the ingredients when you have no clue what the heck they're talking about. Okay? So on your syllabus, on your assignment 1, you'll see words that end in IC, like acidic, sulfuric, IC. That means that product is negatively charged. Anything that ends in ITE, ite, means that oxygen has been added. So when the mother word is sulfur and you see sulfite, it means there's oxygen in it. Well, oxygen is negatively charged, so sulfites are negative. When you see ate, ATE, at the end of the word, that means even more oxygen has been added. So I see sulfite, sulfate. Sulfate has more oxygen than a sulfite, so there's more negative ions involved. ASC at the end of a word is an enzyme. Okay, and that's enzymatic action. Enzymes are negatively charged. When you see amine, AMINE, at the end of a word, that means there's ammonia in it. Okay, and ammonia is a very strong alkali. It just happens to be positively charged. Okay, and IUM, usually at the end of a word, like quaternary ammonium compounds, means that there's ammonia involved. And of course, the state board will ask you, what effect does ammonia have? State board answers soften and swell. What effect do acids have? Harden and shrink. 0, 1, and 2 are unsafe. 12, 13, 14 are unsafe. So I have to know the pH. You're going to find that on, hopefully, your SDS. Now, sometimes they refer to pKa, which is a whole nother story, and that's usually for the acids, and we'll discuss that in a later class, because right now, just getting a handle on how to factor the pH scale and how to use it in your everyday workload is really important, and I don't want to overload you. So, once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.